Welcome back to the Focus Podcast. Today we have JD Thomas with JD Sales Consulting on the show. How you doing, JD?
Good, Mario. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing fine. I'm excited to have you on today because I know I'm going to learn something. Today we are talking about marketing, and you are a proven marketing consultant. Have helped me out with some projects on my business. So known you for what, about a year now?
Yeah, I would say about a year.
Okay. I'm so glad you can make it in the show, man. How you
Yeah.
been?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. I've seen some of the previous episodes of the show, and so when you reached out, I was very honored. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. You deliver a ton of value not only to my business, but I follow your LinkedIn and I'm like, ooh, that's good. Ooh, every single post that seems like, oh man, that's great.
Mm.
So kind of give me the background. Like, why did you even get into marketing consulting?
Yeah, great question. So I had a couple years of experience with sales and marketing type activities. Obviously, they're pretty interconnected, sales and marketing together. Um, so I had a couple years experience with that, helping different companies. And then when I stepped away from my previous company over this past year, was still kind of helping friends on and off, just kind of through advice, through input, stuff like that. And uh, kind of just ended up falling backwards into, man, I really love helping people still. I really love problem solving, especially in the sales and marketing world. And what specifically led me to consulting rather than just a, you know, service or a solution or a, being an SEO guy or a website, or social media guy or whatever. That consulting piece was actually through kind of a random scenario with my house. So, kind of side story here. We bought our house about a year and a half ago, and we knew there was a lot of components of the house that were older.
Mm,
Our windows were super old. Our doors, you could see, cracks like where the door meets, where like air is getting in and out. Um, our attic is not in great shape, insulation, all these different things. And I didn't really know where to turn. So we bought it in the summer, right? Didn't know where to turn because our house was struggling to stay cool, like struggling hard. And I knew it was not a good situation. And I kind of just reached out to a random company. I assumed, no, it's probably attic related. I didn't really know. Reach out to attic company, insulation. They came out, said they were going to do an assessment, but really just went up into the attic and then came down, was like, hey, you need radiant barrier. And I was like, for one, I didn't know what that is. That's the shiny, on the
yeah.
inside of your attic. And I was like, okay, that's not really what I was expecting to hear. I didn't know any better, but I was like, I'm gonna hold off for now. And I looked up later and like that's what their specialty was. Like they sold radiant barrier. So of course, like, hey, you need help with any of these variety issues. Oh, it just happens to be this one thing that we sell.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay. So I put it off for a long time. And then I got to know someone who was a residential HVAC guy. I got to know him personally. And he was like, hey, part of my assessment is I come in and I assess every part of your house. And then I kind of rate it, red, yellow, green to say, hey, this is in bad shape. This is in okay shape. This is in good shape. And I was like, dude, that's exactly what I need. Um, and so I trusted him that he was actually going to do a genuine assessment and then consult me on which direction I needed to go rather than just being like, hey, you need me. Like, what are the chances? And so we got through with our thing, and he put this video together. It was really well done. Had ratings of different stuff as he's showing the video, and he's like, "Hey, the AC unit. I have a weird one that's like above our shower. It's like in between the sheetrock and the attic. It's like they use them in apartments or whatever. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that,
Yeah.
but the sheetrock going from the unit into the attic was broken, so it was essentially intaking attic air, and that is why it was filling our house with like attic air, and I didn't know that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's been doing this for since you owned the house probably." He's like, "I'm guessing someone was up there and broke something or whatever." And so he's like, that's not something that's really HVAC related. I have a guy who kind of is a handyman repair who could do that. And so it wasn't his main service. It was through someone he knew. Um, but like he sold me. I'm like, dude, yeah, like you're my guy. You're my HVAC guy. Um, you gave me a true consultative assessment of the
Right.
situation, and then were able to point me in the right direction. And that kind of helped formulate how I wanted to go about my sales consulting business because, like I said, a lot of small business owners, they know they need help with sales and marketing, but they usually don't know where to turn. And so they just, the first person they call up, that person's like, hey, what do you know? You need blank, fill in the blank. And they just start throwing their money out left and right without really having a good idea of what is actually going to be like the biggest bang for their buck as far as next move, stuff like that. So that
No,
was a long story, but there you go.
no, it's helpful because having been a client of yours and used your consultative services, I was on the other side of the red, yellow, green
Mhm.
kind of assessment. And what stood out to me as you were talking, a lot of companies will go out there and say, this is everything that's wrong,
Mm.
right? And it's got a slant to, like you said, like their
Right.
service.
Right.
What I enjoyed about our consultation, our assessment, was that you gave me, here's some things you're actually doing well,
Mm.
and
Right.
here's some things kind of in the yellow, like, "Oh, okay, these could possibly be addressed, but like, here's some red areas that we can
Mhm.
really attack." And what's really neat, again, you going back as a homeowner, is sometimes it takes a third party eyes on your stuff because
Totally.
you can go in there, you know enough about a house, you have an AC and plumbing and all the things, but like
Right.
to get into the minutia of it. So I enjoyed not just you know, cold calling me up going, "Hey, like your
Mhm.
website's a mess. I can help you out,"
Yeah,
right? It
exactly.
was like, "Hey, let's just give a full assessment, see what you're
Mhm.
doing well, see what can possibly be improved, and then here's some areas that are really, critical." So I just appreciated that as the client, as the customer.
Well, good, yeah.
So let's talk about those red areas.
Yeah, totally.
What in your experience, what are some of the most common mistakes that businesses are making in their marketing? And I know that's kind of a broad question, but
Yeah,
whether it's website, social, I mean, kind of what are over some of the common mistakes you're seeing out there?
sure. Yeah, I would say I guess the first few that come to mind, one is like them being who like they're talking about themselves all the time. So it's
Mm,
like if, my company, I'm the hero, look how awesome I am, look at all these things that we do. You want to work with us because we're great, kind of a mindset. And I think it's easy to fall into that because as a small business owner, like you're super proud of your business, right? Like you built it, you started it, you're passionate about what you do. So it's doesn't even have to come from a like conceited place. It could just be like, I'm really proud of what I do. I want to get it out there and tell everybody. Um, whereas, really making the shift to the customer being the hero and helping them see where they can go if they work with you, if they use your product or service or whatever. And so it's the, classic, they're the hero, you're the guide kind of a thing, getting them to where they want to be and kind of helping paint that picture of, hey, this could be you in the future using, our company kind of a thing. So that's probably the first one that comes to mind is like, who the focus is on with everything, with your website, with your emails, with your social media, making it about the customer and
yeah,
like them being the focus.
it's good.
um and I would say the other biggest thing is probably saying too much. um Kind of back to my previous point about like you're a small business owner, you're super proud of your company, you want to tell the world everything that you can do. Um, on a lot of websites, we have there's like things all over the place on it of like we can do this, we can help with that, we can help with this, click here, go there, check out this, and it's like overwhelming. And then same thing, let's say like a sales email, you want to like the habit is to write like a novel of a sales email like, hey, we can do this, and like paragraph, and then Also,
Mhm.
in case you don't need that, we can do this, and then, hey, this other side thing that, we're able to take care of for you is this. And it's like, it's so much, uh, like, so many topics, so much just information overload, um, that it's hard for people to consume, or like, you see it and your mind goes, never mind, I'm done, like, I'm moving on, X out the website, delete the email, whatever it is. It's too much information overload. So uh, those, I think, are two of the, like, pretty common pitfalls that people just easily give into.
I know for a fact, I'm so glad you said that second one,
Uh-huh.
the too much, because that's exactly what you
Uh-huh.
had recommended to us um, when you gave us our assessment. Because, like you said, as a business owner, I wanted everyone to see all these testimonials and these
Mhm.
videos and all this. Here's how we can help. But people, they're not reading all that. They're
Right.
like you taught us, they're just scanning.
Right.
They're scanning the email,
Mhm.
they're scanning the post, they're scanning your website, and, I hate to admit this, but we didn't even have our call to action,
Mhm.
button, prominent everywhere, and you're like,
Right.
"Hey, that's pretty glaring." So I got with my, web designer, and we got that fixed, but that was one of the biggest things that we did was we took your advice and we stripped away a lot of the
Yeah.
text that was on there to funnel them. Like, what do we want them to do? Do we want them to, like, read everything, or do we want them to get a quote?
Right. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and at the end of the day, so go ahead, yeah, go ahead and speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you wanna have a goal for your website, and
Mhm.
so if your goal is, "Hey, I just wanna educate people on everything about video production," then, like, you can definitely do that. And someone who wants to be educated on that will most likely, possibly read through it all and stuff like that. But if your goal is, hey, I want to book a meeting to see if you're interested, make that the goal of your website and use everything to support that. And what I was going to say as well about just the information overload is, even before, like, someone reads the different information overload that you're saying, they're initially going to say, like, based on the formatting, do I even feel like engaging in this content?
Mm,
So,
mhm.
like, if it's one big paragraph after the next, they're not even going to get to the fact that you're talking about 10 different things. They're just going to look at it and it's like, that's overwhelming. I don't have time. Everyone's thinks they're busy. We all busy to some degree, but people feel even more busy or just internally. So it's like, I don't even have time to, like, think about reading this. I'm just going to move on because the formatting of it is, it's hard to consume.
Yeah.
Unless you're, like, intentionally reading a book. You're like, well, then, yeah, of course it's paragraphs, but that's a different world.
No, it's so true, and there's a funny meme, I'm not sure if you've seen it, it's like a gigantically long post, and then at the end it says, um, "Sorry that happened," or "Congratulations, but I'm not reading all this,"
Yeah,
or
yeah, I've
something of
seen
that
that.
nature,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry or congrats, I don't know, but
Yeah,
yeah,
well, I'm not reading all this, but,
100%,
congratulations or sorry that happened to you. So, yeah, you're
100%.
spot on.
And
That's such a great point. Go ahead.
there's a way to do long form content for sure,
Mhm.
but you still have to think about the formatting. Um, you know, with copywriting, there's a slippery slope concept that is a good slippery slope concept of, I read you get the person to read the first line, and then that one makes them want to read the next line, and then that one, and so there's that slippery slope of, like, each line's goal should be to get the customer consumer to read the next line, but that's all very intentionally done with the way it's formatted. Each line is super digestible,
Mhm.
easy for your brain to kind of intake, rather than, like I said, a whole paragraph where you're like, if I'm scrolling through, I'm not stopping to read that. I'm just gonna keep going, kind of
Right.
a thing.
No, it's so important, and we teach the same thing in video too,
Mm,
because you can't ramble on about 10 minutes about a
right.
topic. We
Totally.
have to be concise. We have to really strip that down. So like you're saying, the same is true in text. Um, so let's get to some fun parts here.
Hmm.
At the time of recording this, we're wrapping up quarter 4 in 2024. A lot
Yep.
of businesses out there are like, okay, they're assessing their marketing.
Right.
What are we gonna continue doing in 2025? What are
Hmm.
we gonna abandon? What are we gonna change? So kind of, and I know it's difficult on a broad scale, but kind
Sure.
of break down what are some things that clients, that businesses need to be doing here in 2025?
Yeah, definitely very nuanced. Like you said, one industry to the next could look completely different. And then, um, even just, like I said at the beginning, my kind of consultative process it is going to look different for everybody.
Hmm.
And so, um, there are some kind of broad strokes that we can get into, but I really like to look at, okay, well, what do you have right now? What's in good shape? What's in not? Okay, that's going to dictate, this is going to be the wisest move for you to take here. As far as broad strokes, for one, I would say post like creating demand for your company on social media is
Hmm.
obviously a big thing. A lot of people are very in tune to that. Some companies could maybe aren't doing any and could be doing a lot more. Some are doing it, maybe could be doing it better. It's etc. But definitely in some way creating demand for your product or service on social media. Um, know, like, and trust is a big piece of that. So people want to work with you if they know, like, and trust you, and so definitely through content on social media is a really great way to build know, like, and trust. They get to see you or your employees or whoever's involved, not just a picture, but if you do video, what you do, like, they can see your mannerisms, your personality, like, wow, I like that guy, I like that girl, like, I would want to work with them, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And then the trust aspect, if you're providing content that actually helps, adds value, educates your audience, um, they grow in their trust. Like, okay, this company knows what they're talking about. I
Right.
I may not think, actively think, okay, I want to work with them now, but it builds that trust factor of, um, okay, someday the right content comes through, the right offer comes through. Okay, yeah, I do actually want to pull the trigger on this now, kind of a thing. Um, so those are some of the first ones. I mean, let's see here. Outside of that, I think a really big thing that would be helpful for people is, um, a lot of, and I didn't mention this in the kind of the red areas we were talking about earlier, but uh, a lot of business owners will communicate as an insider rather than as a consumer who doesn't know the same information that you do.
So good.
So, like, just the verbiage that you use, um, it's really tough as the business owner or the person in the company to think as a consumer, because you know all the things, you know the lingo, you know your industry really well. And so, um what I have found to be really helpful is having, like, a person or two who are outside of my industry that can kind of speak into things I'm doing.
Yes.
And so, be able to be like, hey, JD, like, you're saying that, I don't know what you mean by that. It's like, oh, duh, like, I didn't think through that you would have no idea what this means, or this, little acronym, all
Yeah.
kinds of things that can just be insider speak. Um, so I think that's really big to, I guess where I'm going with that is having a person or people or small group that can kind of speak into things you're doing,
Right.
because it's so easy to be in your own head and just to not even be aware that you are really.
Yeah.
uh
No, that's big, and that was big for me because, a lot of business owners, I'm not sure, it's a combination of pride
mhm,
and busyness and, like, fear, right?
sure,
And you're just so busy doing your thing, but for me, I was like, "Okay, I need someone to put their eyeballs, on
right,
this." And I love what you talked about just being, almost overly simplified because,
mhm,
I've heard it called the curse of knowledge.
mhm,
And so you say all these big words and because that's all you know, and then the,
right,
the end user's like, what? And so I've also heard if you can explain what you do to like a 5 or 10 year old,
mhm,
then you've got it.
yeah,
If my daughter can go to school and say, hey, this is what my dad does for a living, I know I've nailed it.
right,
But if I'm talking about, bokeh and all these different terms, and that's one that we picked up on. So bokeh is when you're filming and that has that blurry background. When people are searching,
oh,
they just want the blurry background, right?
Yeah.
And so, like you said, we have to use terms and words that people are like, "Oh yeah, I get that."
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that if we can have some more, simple everyday messaging on a consistent basis on social that's
Mhm.
educating
Mhm.
over the long term, then you're going to be in good shape. Obviously, there's more things to it
Sure.
with that assessment, but kind of tell me, what's a good client work look like for you guys right now? Like what is your ideal
Yeah.
business?
Right now, I'm focusing on small business owners. Obviously, I've been talking about that a lot. Um, and really ones that feel their sales are kind of stuck and
Hmm.
they really don't know which way to turn. And so I get that that is pretty broad, but not sure why, not sure where to turn, not sure what service they need or don't need, but I know I need help with this, and I know my sales can be so much more, my profit can be so much more, um, and I really need someone who has experience in these different things to be able to speak into them and give some honest feedback and give some encouragement too. I think I didn't touch on it, but when you're talking about the green aspects as well, like that's so important as well. Being able to encourage, especially a business owner who feels really lonely at the top,
Hmm.
like, hey, you're doing this really well.
Yeah.
Um, that does more than just you think, okay, cool, check that box. Like, I don't need to think about it anymore. But it's like, oh, wow, like I'm actually good at doing XYZ, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, that whole just like, positive mindset, encouragement, all those things are really important too. So it's kind of a mix of a lot of that, I guess you could say. Um, yeah. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did not realize how big of a step that was even for me
Mm.
until we started talking about it. I'm like, that really made me feel good that I wasn't just a complete disaster.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so
Sure.
I'm so glad that you did the tiers like that in the assessment. So if I am a small business owner and I'm
Hmm.
nodding my head right now, I'm like, okay, that's me. Um, kind of tell our audience what's the next step.
Yeah. Next step, I would say, is to follow me on LinkedIn. JD Thomas, obviously, is my name on there. Then JD Sales Consulting is the business. But that's where, right now, posting a lot of that content, like you were talking about earlier, helpful tips, insights, encouragements, things like that on LinkedIn. Um, that's where all my content is, and then connect with me on there after that, and we can talk about if I never want to assume that my solution is the right one for somebody, but can have that kind of initial conversation to see, hey, does this make sense? Is this something you want to move forward with or not?
Okay, great. And can they check out website?
I don't have that up and running yet.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So LinkedIn, holler at JD. I've used him personally, and he has helped us. And so, like you say, the assessment process will give you an idea of what's needed, what you're doing well. But most importantly, he's not going to push you in any direction. His goal is to help you find the best solution for you. So if you're
Hmm.
listening to this and you're like, yes, I need help with my 2025 marketing strategy, I highly recommend that you reach out to JD for his consulting services. Um, JD, it was such an honor to have you on. Is there anything else that we did not cover that you wanted to make sure that our audience knows about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just what you kind of said a time or two in there, that all this is so nuanced, and why there's a lot of good value you can get from following different people, even like I just said to do. Like there's little nuggets that are out there. There's plenty of people I follow, but ultimately the thing that's going to make the biggest difference is something that is based off your needs, your
Yeah,
current situation, and then also having that person that's going to be kind of pushing you and encouraging you, challenging you, whatever those things are. Like I said, encouragement on the positive side, obviously, but then if it's like, hey, this is kind of, a challenge in the sense that this is really struggling, and you need someone to tell you like this needs to change,
Yeah.
kind of a thing, rather than just a yes man kind of always being like, yeah, it all looks great, looks great, looks great.
Yeah.
So having that person that is committed to you and to your success, I think can go a long way.
Perfect, man. Well, I enjoyed having you on the show. You heard it again here. Reach out to JD, have him look at your website, your marketing, see where you're doing well, see where you may have some opportunities to grow, and we can all win. So let's have a great 2025. Thanks for tuning into The Focus, where we put your brand in focus.